Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name's Wes. What's that famous house? In today's video, we are going to be going over all of the backgrounds and feats in Eberron Forge of the Artificer. Before we get into that, though, a bit of housekeeping. I'm only going to go over the backgrounds that provide new feats, so if it provides something like Lucky, Skilled, or Alert, I'm not going to be talking about that. I'm also going to be, because these backgrounds, their origin feats are chained to their general feats, I will be going in that order. So for example, Aberrant Heir, Aberrant Dragonmark, Greater Aberrant Dragonmark, in that order. All of these feats do say Eberron campaign only, so if you're familiar with Adventures League, and the way it works is you get access to the player's handbook and one other book. So like you could play Player's Handbook and Heroes of Faerun, or Player's Handbook and Eberron Forge of the Artificer, which means you couldn't have a Bladesinger or with the Aberrant Heir background. Now, normally, the way I do things at my tables is I will pick a setting like the Forgotten Realms, Grim Hollow, Ravnica, and kind of make my own version of them. A scrapbook or like kitchen sink style game. In the player's handbook, they show a balanced party consisting of a fighter, rogue, cleric, and wizard, and then they can tell you what to swap those out for. Those being like ranger for like the rogue, some of the options are ranger and bard. For the fighter, it's monk, barbarian, ranger, or paladin. Anytime I start a campaign, besides the ones where I'm experimenting, like Oops All Gunslingers or Oops All Monster Hunters, I like to kind of stick to that balanced party. And at the start of any campaign, I will have my players make two characters, their primary one and a backup one. And so if any of those are like a ranger, I don't allow other players to take Hunter's Mark. Same thing with like a warlock. I don't allow other players to get hex. So if you're thinking of taking magic initiate to get those, you're not allowed, because WotC decided to make like Hunter's Mark specifically a class feature for the ranger. And yes, I do have my fix for the ranger, specifically because there's such a huge gap between the ranger and the paladin. Like, they made the martial caster divide smaller, but there's still a huge gap within the half casters. And so a lot of these feats do provide expanded spell list, and some of those have like very like ranger spells, or spells that are more fitting, like that are on the ranger spell list, and some don't have access to or feel very similar to. So in that same vein of not being allowing you to take Hunter's Mark, I'm sorry, if you're a paladin other than the Oath of the Ancients, I probably won't allow you to take some of these feats. And vice versa. There are some spells on here that I'm like, this is supposed to be very much their thing. So if I have, like I said, players who are a sorcerer or this, and this feels too much like that, I may or may not, depending on the story, depending on the table and the players, allow that. I don't really like banning stuff. However, WotC just, I guess, doesn't care about game balance. You can kind of see that, especially with the Oath of the Genie and the Winter Walker Ranger being in the same video. With all that said, let's get into it. Alright, so our first background is the Aberrant Heir that we're going to be talking about. Your ability scores are Strength, Constitution, and Charisma. The feat that you're going to get is Aberrant Dragonmark. Your proficiencies are History and Intimidation, and you get a tool proficiency with the Disguise Kit. The Aberrant Dragonmark feat gives you the following features. All of the Dragonmarks have the restrictions of Eberron campaign, and you can't have another Dragonmark feat. So the first feature that this feat gives you is Aberrant Fortitude. When you fail a Constitution saving throw, you can add a d4 to the number rolled to potentially turn that miss or fail into a success. And you can do this once per long rest. Honestly, I would only use it if you failed by 1 or 2. And depending on what that con save is for. If it's against petrification, definitely use this. As someone who's been petrified, who's had a character petrified twice and paralyzed multiple times, I would definitely say use this for those occasions. Like I said, if you're only failing by 1 or 2. The second part of this is Aberrant Magic. You gain 1 cantrip from the Sorcerer spell list and 1 first level spell, and it follows the normal spell casting. You can choose your ability score, and you can cast the spell once for a long rest without expending a spell slot, and again if you have spells like spells of the equivalent level, spell slots or pack magic slots. I'm not going to be repeating this portion. I'm just going to say you know the drill going forward, because it's going to be like that for a lot of them. The other part of this is Aberrant Surge. When you cast the first level spell you get with this feat, you can expend a hit dice, roll it. If you roll an even number, you gain temporary hit points equal to that number rolled. If you roll an odd number, choose a creature within 30 feet. They take force damage equal to the number rolled. And if there are no other creatures within range, you take that damage. It's a bit of a gamble. Very much feels like a wild magic feature, and this kind of plays on that. Alright, then that's going to give you access to the greater Aberrant Mark. It's available at 4th level. It gives you improved fortitude. Now this is going to change that d4 into a d6, and you can use it once per short or long rest. And instead of just when you use that first level spell, you can also activate your mark feature when you use your cantrip. And you can roll up to 2 hit dice now, and the other features still apply. And instead of once per long rest, you can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. Our next feat is House Cannith Heir. This is going to provide strength, dexterity, or intelligence. So I could see Eldritch Knight possibly going with this. Rogue might also like this. You gain proficiencies in investigation and sleight of hand, and you can choose any artisan tool. This gives you the mark of making origin feat, which gives you artisan's intuition. Whenever you make an ability check using Arcana or artisan's tools, you roll that d4. A lot of these are going to give you a d4 to roll, and then a d6 for the greater version. You know the mending cantrip and also magic weapon, which is honestly pretty good. Having magic weapon right at level 1, being able to give your weapon a +1 right at level 1. You can cast this once for a long rest, choose your ability scores, yada yada. Then spells of the mark, if you have pack magic or spell casting feature, you gain an expanded spell list with Identify, Tensor's Floating Disc, Conjure Continual Flame, Spiritual Weapon, Conjure Barrage, Elemental Weapon, Fabricate, Stone Shape, and Creation. They're automatically added to your spell list, but they are not automatically prepared. And then the greater version of this, once again I said you can turn that d4 into a d6. Then you can also you can increase any ability score by 1. Like I said, you can turn that d4 into a d6 instead, and you always have. And then when you cast your magic weapon, it is cast as if you've made a 3rd level spell. So right at level 4, now you have a +2 weapon whenever you cast magic weapon. After that, we have House Deneith, Heir, Strength, Constitution, Wisdom. You can already see this being good on something like a druid or a cleric. You gain the Mark of the Sentinel feat, and then your proficiencies are Insight, Perception, and you choose the gaming set. Mark of the Sentinel spells, you gain Compel Duel, Shield of Faith, Warding Bond, Zone of Truth, Counterspell, Protection from Energy, Death Ward, Guardian of Faith, and Bigby's Hand. It's weird seeing Counterspell and Bigby's Hand on here, because those aren't typically available to like clerics or druids. Neither is Compel Duel. But paladins are pretty good tanks also, and if you're going to be an off tank, these seem kind of fitting. The Mark of the Sentinel, you can add a d4 to any insight or perception check. You always have the shield spell prepared. You can cast it, you know the drill, once per long rest. Then you have Vigilant Guardian. When a creature you can see within 5 feet of you is hit by an attack roll, you can use a reaction to swap places with that creature and are hit by the attack instead. You can use this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. So reason I said this is great for like a cleric or a druid is because they're kind of like your off tanks. Depending on how you build, you can be in the back line like support character, battlefield control blaster, depending on what domain you have or circle to fill that blaster role. But especially if you're like a moon druid, you're pretty tanky, so being able to swap this for, let's say you have a rogue next to you, I would say a druid who typically gets temporary hit points when they wild shape might actually benefit from this, or being able to take that hit for you. The greater mark of the sentinel is going to turn that d4 to a d6. Then it'll also... Editing Wes here to say that you're actually going to be able to make a weapon attack or unarmed strike as part of that reaction that you gain from your Mark of the Sentinel feature, the Vigilant Guardian benefit. The next background we have is the half Ghallanda heir. If you know how they're actually supposed to be pronounced, let me know in the comments down below. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Alright, so this is going to give you the ability scores Dexterity, Wisdom, Charisma. Pretty good for a rogue, pretty good for a ranger, possibly a bard. And this is going to give you the Mark of Hospitality, which gives you Insight and Persuasion, Cook Utensil, and Cooking Utensils. Alright, this kind of sounds like a ranger. Who's like pretty good at chopping up monsters and making meals of them. However, it could also work for a rogue or bard, because your feature that you get is Ever Hospitable. Whenever you roll a persuasion or an ability check using brewer supplies or cooking utensils, you can roll a d4 and add that 1d4. This is actually going back to ranger, because the Fey Wanderer can already add their wisdom to their persuasion checks or to their charisma based skills. In Keeper's Magic, you always have Purify Food and Drink, which I don't know if Rangers already get on their spell list, but I know they don't get Unseen Servant, so you have those available to you. And then at level 3, you gain the Calm Emotions. Mark of Hospitality spells are Goodberry, Sleep, Aid, Enhance Ability, Create Food or Water, Lehman's Tiny Hut, Aura of Purity, Mordecai's Private Sanctum, and Hollow. This actually does seem kind of fitting for a Fey Wanderer. Some of these are already on your spell list, but like having a Private Sanctum or Tiny Hut and Hollow feel kind of funny for like a Fey to do. And then we're going to move on to our Greater Mark of Hospitality. This is going to let you do that turn that d4 into a d6 whenever you're rolling persuasion or cooking utensils. You are also going to have Purified Food and Drink added, or when you cast Purified Food and Drink instead of its normal effect, each creature of your choice within 30 feet is refreshed. Any exhaustion levels they have is reduced by 1. The creature gains temporary hit points equal to your proficiency bonus plus one of your mental stats, which are Intelligence, Charisma, or Wisdom. And you can do this once per long rest. So the Ranger gets Tireless, I think, at level 10, which allows them to reduce exhaustion on a short rest and also gain temporary hit points. Now it's kind of like you're offering that to the rest of your party. Our next background is House Jorasco heir. You get your ability scores are Dexterity, Constitution, and Wisdom. Ranger, Rogue, Monk, Druid, Cleric. This is fitting for all of them, more so the Cleric and Druid, because you get the Mark of Healing. Your skills are Medicine, Stealth, and Herbalism. Druids already get Herbalism kits. The Mark of Healing, you can add d4 to any medicine check or check with the Herbalism kit. You gain the Healing Touch. You always have Cure Wounds prepared. The typical yada yada. At 3rd level, you always have Lesser Restoration prepared. So depending on your Cleric or Druid, if you already get that as an option for your expanded spell list, you may or may not want this. However, this is a free casting of it. You're also going to gain False Life, Healing Word, Arcane Vigor, which is normally not only available to wizards and sorcerers, Prayer of Healing, Aura of Vitality, Mass Healing Word, Aura of Life, Aura of Purity, and Greater Restoration. The Greater Mark of Healing will change that D4 into a D6. You can now use Healing Touch to benefit to cast Cure Wounds, a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. And when you cast Cure Wounds, any 1s and 2s are automatically turned into 3s, which is honestly really good because rolling like 2d8 and getting 2 1s plus your ability score modifier at this point would probably be a +4. So only doing 6 points of healing, or so being able to just at least bare minimum doing 10 points feels slightly better. Our next background is the House of Kundarak? House of Kundarak. Heir, and you're gonna get Strength, Constitution, and Intelligence. Pretty good for an Artificer, a Eldritch Knight, a Wizard. You're gonna get the Mark of Warding. Your skills are Arcana and Investigation, and you get Thieves' Tools. And the Mark of Warding gives you, whenever you roll Investigation or use the Thieves' Tool check, you gain 1d4. Now, in the player's handbook, they state that Perception is used to find traps. However, for me, I've always looked at it, Perception being like far away, Investigation being up close. So if you're walking down the hallway and you want to find traps, it's a Perception check. If you're trying to see if a chest that is right in front of you that's locked, or a door or window is trapped before you use your Thieves' Tools to pick it, that's going to be Investigation in my games at least. Then you always have the Alarm spell prepared. At level 3 you gain Arcane Lock. Your expanded spell list consists of Arm of Agathis, Sanctuary, Knock, Nistel's Magic Aura, Glyph of Warding, Magic Circle, Lehman's Secret Chest, Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound, and Anti-Life Shell. This seems very good for an Artificer in my opinion because their spell list is kind of lackluster. It didn't feel like it changed much from the original Eberron books or Tasha's, which seemed like they dropped the ball to me. At least WotC did. So we are going to go on to our Greater Dragonmark of Warding. That D4 is going to turn into a D6. Oh, I forgot to mention, just like all these Dragonmarks, you can increase one stat, doesn't matter what it is, by 1. Improved Warding. When a creature makes an attack roll against you or a creature you can see within 30 feet, you can take a reaction to impose disadvantage on that. You can use this benefit a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. Pretty good for that Armor Artificer or the Abjuration Wizard. Or like I said, even an Eldritch Knight might want these. After our Kundarak, we have... Alright, so up next we have our House Lyrandar heir. This is going to give you Strength, Dexterity, Charisma. I can already see this for a Paladin, Rogue, or Bard. Possibly even a Fey Wanderer Ranger. You gain Acrobatics and Nature and Navigator's Tools. And the Mark of the Storm feat. This is going to give you a D4 to Acrobatics and Navigation skills. You have Resistance to Lightning Damage. You know the Thunderclaps cantrip and the Gust of Wind spell. Then your expanded spell list consists of Featherfall, Fog Cloud, Levitate, Shatter, Sleet Storm, Wind Wall, Conjure Minor Elementals, Control Weather, and Conjure Elemental. The greater version of this, the Greater Mark of the Storm, will give you a +1 to any ability score. Your D4 will turn into a D6, and when you cast Gust of Wind, you also have a 60-foot fly speed for the duration of the spell. House Medani? Sorry, I'm dyslexic. I really thought that was Medina. Alright, Dexterity, Intelligence, Wisdom, Ranger, Rogue, Monk might like this. You gain proficiency with Insight and Investigation and a Disguise Kit. You're getting the Mark of Detection. You can add a D4 to any Investigation or Insight check. You always have Detect Magic and Detect Poison and Disease. At level 3, you gain See Invisibility. Your spells include Detect Good and Evil and Good, Identify, Detect Thoughts, Find Traps, Clairvoyance, Non-Detection, Arcane Eye, Divination, and Legend Lore. Now, an Arcane Trickster wouldn't get Legend Lore, and they wouldn't get Arcane Eye or Divination until level 19, I think, is when they get 4th level spell slots. And those are already available to them since they have access to the wizard spell list. And the ranger already has access to a good amount of these also, like non-detection. The greater mark of detection will turn that D4, allow you to increase any ability score, turn that D4 into a D6, and also your special ability here is shared detection. So when you cast the invisibility without a spell slot, you can choose one other creature that you can see who also gains this benefit. So at least you and one other party member will be able to see invisible creatures. House Orien, heir, gives you dexterity, constitution, intelligence. It's probably good for an artificer, rogue. You're going to gain access to the Mark of Passage. Your skills are going to be acrobatics, athletics, and you're also going to get cartographer's tools. The artificer already gets cartographer's tools, so they can choose something else if they get this feature or this background. So let's see what the Mark of Passage does. Your speed increases by 5 feet. It's already good for a lot of the armor artificer because their stealth armor gives them an increase 5 feet. The ranger gets an increase of 10 feet at level 6, I believe, when they get their rowing feature. Rogue doesn't mind ever having a little bit of extra movement. You can add that D4 to any athletics or acrobatics checks. A monk might not mind this, especially if you're doing a grappler-based monk. Then you also get Magical Passage, which guarantees you Misty Step, but once prolonged rest. So Rogue might definitely not mind this. Your expanded spell list though is Expeditious Retreat, Jump, Find Steed, Pass Without Trace, Blink, Phantom Steed, Dimension Door, Freedom of Movement, and Teleportation Circle. Weird variety, kind of all over the place from what it feels like. The Greater Mark of Passage, increase 1 ability score, gain that D4 goes to a D6. And when you cast Misty Step, you can choose up to 2 willing creatures and teleport them with you. Each target must take a reaction to also teleport up to 30 feet. So they can actually teleport anywhere as long as they can see it within 30 feet. They doesn't have to teleport like directly with you, but it does cost their reaction. So a bit of more restricted teleportation in Eberron than there is in, I guess, the Forgotten Realms and or generic player's handbook. We are going to go on to our next house, which is the House of Phiarlan, House of Phiarlan heir? I don't know. It's this house. You gain dexterity, wisdom, charisma, so I'm already thinking ranger, rogue, or bard for this one. You gain the Mark of Shadows, you gain proficiency in deception and stealth, possibly even a warlock maybe, and you gain a disguise kit. The Mark of Shadow gives you a D4 to stealth or performance. Once again, that Fey Wanderer is coming to mind, or even maybe a Valor Bard. You gain Shape Shadows, you always have Minor Illusion and Invisibility prepared. Your expanded spells are Disguise Self, Silent Image, Darkness, Pass Without Trace, Clairvoyance, Major Image, Greater Invisibility, Hallucinatory Terrain, and Mislead. I feel like the Fey Wanderer's winning so far, as far as like abilities that, really work with their subclass. The Greater Mark of Shadow, same thing, increase any ability score, that D4 to a D6, and when you use your Mark of Shadow to cast invisibility, you can cast it up at the 3rd level version. So invisibility is a 2nd level spell. At 3rd level, you can target one other creature and they also become invisible. Next up, we have House Sivis heir. You gain intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Those are kind of tough stats to work with because they increase 1 primary mental stat or secondary mental stat depending on your class, and they don't increase the other. So I could see this for like a druid possibly. You're going to gain the Mark of Scribing. I can also see for an Artificer, because once you're at high enough level, you can increase your Constitution to 18 with a Amulet of Health by forging one. But yeah, you're going to gain the Mark of Scribing, proficiency in History and Perception, and Calligraphy supplies. The Mark of Scribing, whenever you make a History check or use Calligraphy supplies, add a d4. You always know the Message cantrip and Comprehend Languages, and at 3rd level you can cast Magic Mouth. I actually kind of really like Magic Mouth. I used it in a campaign to place a Magic Mouth on my character's journal. That character died. The journal eventually made its way to our ranger. 6 months later, IRL, and 2 months in-game, the Magic Mouth finally activated, and it was like such a cool little moment. Your expanded spells are Command, Illusionary Script, Animal Messenger, Silence, Sending, Tongues, Arcane Eye, Confusion, and Dream. This just feels like mini bard getting added to your class, because a lot of these already appear on the bard spell list, and at level 10 the bard can choose from like any spell list, well, wizard, druid, or cleric. So I always keep that in mind. Like on a bard, eventually they'll have access to most of these. Greater Mark of Scribing will give you same things as before, any ability score d6 instead of a d4, and when you cast Comprehend Languages, you can choose up to 3 creatures. They all gain this benefit. You gain telepathy out for a mile. If you don't have any psionic subclasses like the Aberrant Mind, the Great Old One, Psy Warrior, or Soul Knife, this is pretty great. Not only can all of you comprehend any written or language, you can communicate telepathically, like party-wide for a mile. Our House Sivis, we move on to House Tharashk, heir. Constitution, Intelligence, and Wisdom are your abilities. You gain the Mark of Finding, Perception, and Survival, and 1 gaming set of your choice. The Mark of Finding, you can add a d4 to Perception or Survival. You always have Hunter's Mark prepared and cast it once per long rest. At level 3, you learn Locate Object. Your spells are Fairy Fire, Longstrider, Locate Animals and Plants, Mind Spike, Clairvoyance, Speak with Animals, Divination, Locate Creature, Commune with Nature. A lot of overlap with the Ranger spells. The only things that aren't on the Ranger list, I believe, are Clairvoyance, Divination, and Mind Spike. So this is the one I was talking about earlier about, like, yeah, I don't know if I'd let you take that if I already have a Ranger in my party because of that overlap. And at the Greater Mark of Finding, that d4 turns to a d6, any ability score. Now, the thing is, when you cast Hunter's Mark, you can double the range, and the creature can't benefit from invisibility, from the invisible condition. So, yeah, I definitely don't want anyone's Hunter's Mark to be better than the Ranger's Hunter's Mark. That was House Tharashk. I don't know how to pronunciate these. If I'm butchering them, I am sorry. Our next one is House of Thuranni. This gives you Dexterity, Intelligence, and Charisma. Once again, you're getting the Mark of Shadow, Performance, and Stealth. I already talked about the Mark of Shadow, so I don't have to again. And you get a musical instrument of your choice. This has Rogue or Bard right there. Possibly even Artificer if you're going like with the Artillerist and are using ranged weapons. So that having an increased dexterity might be more important to you than Constitution. Or at least not, fully just dumping con, but you get what I'm saying. You might build your character more like a ranger. Our next house is House Vadalis heir. Vadalis, yeah. Constitution, Wisdom, or Charisma. Already. Druids, Clerics, Warlocks, Sorcerers might want this. Mark of Handling is the feat you get. You gain proficiency in Animal Handling and Nature and Herbalism Kit. And you Mark of Handling, you Nature and Animal Handling gets the d4. You always have Animal Friendship and Speak with Animals prepared. And then when you reach level 3, you can target a monstrosity with Animal Friendship or Speak with Animals. Intelligence, if the creature's intelligence score is 3 or lower. So if it's smarter than that, then you can't. The spells that you get are Command, Find Familiar, Beast Sense, Calm Emotions, Beacon of Hope, Conjure Animals, Aura of Life, Dominate Beast, and Awaken. Druids already have access to most of these, but like I said, they are still pretty good. The Greater Mark of Handling, increase 1 random score, D4 turns to a D6, and then while you're mounted, immediately after you hit a target within 5 feet of your mount with a melee attack roll, your mount can take its reaction and move up to half its speed, its full speed, or you can take a reaction to make 1 attack. Yeah, this might just even have Paladin written on it. You have an Artificer in your party, and you're like, yo, can you make me like Gauntlets of Ogre Strength later on? And they agree to it, and you guys actually make it to that level, then this would be pretty good for you. And if you don't have a Ranger or Druid in your party, then this adds some like flavor to you, especially if you're Oath of the Ancients. You're gonna get Subdue Animal. As a magic action, you can exert your command over a 1 beast or monstrosity that you can see within 30 feet. They have to fail a Wisdom save versus... Oh, it's a Wisdom-based DC, so this might be better for a Ranger or Druid, but the spell list is they already have access to most of that, though. But anyway, if the target fails, they become frightened until the start of your next turn, and you can do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. There is one other level 4 mark that's available, and that is the Potent Dragonmark. This increases your spellcasting ability score. So intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. I don't know why they always put wisdom before charisma. Like, that is not in alphabetical order, but whatever. And what this does, you have 1 extra spell slot. The spell slot is half your level rounded up to a maximum of 5th level. So really good on a half casters like Paladins and Rangers, Artificers, third casters like the Arcane Knight, the Arcane Trickster, and also really good on a Warlock. You regain this expended spell slot when you finish a short or long rest, and you can use this spell slot to cast only a spell that you have prepared because of your Dragonmark feat. And most importantly, those expanded spells that you got earlier from like your Origin feat are all prepared now. It's just 9 extra spells on any class that takes this. It's really powerful, and you can still take the Greater Dragonmarks on top of this Potent Dragonmark. So that's pretty cool, pretty good. Like I said, the Artificer spell list isn't that, standoutish, so just adding those extra spells is very handy, and they're always prepared for you as well. In my Artificer video, I mentioned that somehow the Battlesmith, despite having a pet, got an expanded spell list, but the Beastmaster didn't. So this is like a free, you can consider this a free expanded spell list if you're playing like a Beastmaster, even Hunter Ranger as well. And finally, we have our Epic Boon, which is the Boon of Siberys. Siberys is one of the 3 great dragons in Eberron lore. They are Eberron, Siberys, and I forget the other one. You can honestly think of them like Tiamat, Bahamut, Tiamat, and their brother, I forget the one, the Psychic Dragons. Anyway, same Psychic Epic Boon thing, increase the score above 20 up to 30, and this gives you Aberrant magic. Choose a 8th level spell or lower from the Sorcerer's spell list, or a spell from the Siberys Dragonmark table. So your houses and their marks, so like if you had the Mark of Handling, you would choose the Mark of Handling spell from down here. But if you had like the Aberrant Dragonmark, then you could choose any 8th level spell or lower from the Sorcerer's spell list. You always have that spell prepared and can cast it without expanding the spell slot, and you regain the ability to cast it once per long rest. These spells include Animal Shapes for the Mark of Handling, Control Weather for the Mark of Storm, Demiplane for the Mark of Making, Hero's Feast for the Mark of Hospitality, Maze for the Mark of Warding, Mind Blank for the Mark of the Sentinel, Plane Shift for the Mark of Passage, Project Image for Mark of Shadow, Regenerate for the Mark of Healing, Symbol for the Mark of Scribing, Teleport for the Mark of Finding, and True Seeing for the Mark of Detection. Just an extra 8th level spell is, or 7th or lower, like 7th and 8th level spell slots you only ever gain one of, so just having a second one is so cool. I mean, you have to wait till level 20 to get this, or be playing in like an Eberron one-shot. But that's pretty awesome. That's pretty cool. That increases that martial caster divide again. But if you're like a half caster or third caster, you're never gonna get an 8th level spell or 7th level spell, and this just gives you one. So that's super cool. That is really, really cool. That's been all of the origin feats, the houses, the backgrounds, and the feats in Eberron Forge of the Artificer. This video has been pretty long, so that's enough for me. Once again, don't take everything I said with a grain of salt. This is just my bias opinions when it comes to like the martial half-caster divide and just, you know, half-caster divide. Don't ban anything from your tables unless you're playing Adventurers League style games, or if you're like really sticking to campaign specific settings and whatnot. But yeah, my name's been Wes. Where's the fun? Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Dungeons & Dragons, Warhammer, and other tabletop games. Bye.